Feels like Charizard just took a in my mouth.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome to volume 25. Hopefully your football team made it to the playoffs. My Packers sure did. Excited about that. Also, Liverpool had a huge win last week against Arsenal. Now let's jump into our hot takes. First off, the Packers against the Cowboys. If Jair Alexander shows up and locks down CeeDee Lamb, I don't see the Cowboys pulling out the win. The Packers' weakness is their run defense, and the Cowboys' run game has been terrible all year. Good news for you Cowboys fans out there, that should be the end of the terrible Mike McCarthy era. So that's my first hot take. Packers will beat the Cowboys. Next, the Celtics. I know they're in first place, but I'm predicting that they will actually win a title this year with the trades they made for Porzingis and defensive stud Jrue Holiday. They're going to come through. I think they finally have the right pieces around their solid players, and they will win the championship. On that note, I also think the Lakers just aren't going to get done, and they're probably not even going to make the playoffs this year. Now, finally, a little hockey. I know people probably don't like it, so I'll keep it short. The Colorado Avalanche, they are healthy now, and I think they will win the Stanley Cup because they have a super young team full of studs that are all under 30. So those are your hot takes.
Boom! I'm coming at you with my hot take for Super Wildcard Weekend, and I'm looking at all three division winners that are playing in the NFC this weekend to lose. Stafford's going to return to Ford Field and end the dreams of the team he once commanded. Philadelphia will shake off their late season poor performances. Jalen Hurts will rise and trounce Tampa Bay. And last but not least, Jordan, love the idea of Dallas being Dallas. Us fans are treated to the Packers beating Dak & Co. in Jerry's world. You can mark it, baby, because it's happening.
These are my hot takes for the week. The Dolphins are going to upset the Chiefs. I know the Dolphins have a ton of injuries. They're missing 3 starting linebackers, and they could be without Xavier Howard. But I think they're going to find a way. Their offense is going to be able to overcome the lack of defense. It's going to be a high-scoring game, and they'll be able to take down the Chiefs. The Rams are legitimate Super Bowl contenders at this point. I think the Rams can hang in with anyone, and I think Matthew Stafford will get his revenge against the Detroit Lions this week. And I think after they do that, they're going to get the momentum and feel like they can beat anyone in the NFC and the AFC for that matter. I think they could make a run of the Super Bowl. I'd still give the 49ers the favorite title, but I think the Rams should be the second favorite team in the NFC to come out. And I do not believe that the Ravens will be making a run to the Super Bowl this year. I think it's more likely that another team will come out of the AFC, maybe the Bills, maybe someone else, but I don't think that they're going to make it this season.
And now it's time for a couple of hot takes on this week's NFL playoffs in the wild card round. I think the Rams are going to win the Stafford versus Goff battle. It's pretty funny that these two teams are playing each other this many years after they made that QB swap, and the Rams already got their Super Bowl with Stafford. Well, now the Lions are actually the favorite and the better overall team, but the Rams still have Stafford. I do think they are going to upset the Lions in a close, hard-fought game where McVay outcoaches the Lions. Next, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to beat the Dolphins just like they did in the regular season. It might be a little closer in the playoffs and a little bit more back and forth, but I do think the Chiefs, having that playoff experience over the past decade, are going to prevail pretty easily over the Dolphins. Finally, I think the Buffalo Bills stomp the Pittsburgh Steelers by 20 plus points. I think they're going to make a statement and show that they really are worthy of that number 2 seed that they received. Go Bills. Go Rams. Let's have a good first week of your playoffs. Good luck to everyone out there, and we'll see.
4 guys I'm thankful for drafting this year. I was very lucky to be drafting second or third in all 4 of my leagues, and this afforded me the opportunity to grab Christian McCaffrey in 3 of those 4 leagues. He carried me to the playoffs and into the money game in all 3 leagues. Sure, he only played half the game on championship weekend, but he got me there. And I was able to snag Isaiah Pacheco in the beginning of the 7th round in a 12-man league. Not bad for a guy that ended up the 13th ranked running back in that league's PPR format. Continuing with the running back theme, Joe Mixon was drafted as the 18th running back off the board and turned in a top 10 performance, coming in at RB number 7 on the year. And my guy, Brock Purdy, what a blessing you were when Cousins went down in one league and Lawrence wasn't producing in another league. One league was dynasty and the other league is a keeper league. Well, I'll be giving up a 14th round pick next season for QB6 of that league, and that's who I'm thankful for.
Here are a couple of fantasy football players I'm very thankful that I drafted this year. First up, Brian Robinson, running back, Commanders. He was a stud. He averaged 13.2 points a game, showed he can catch the ball this season, and he was just super amazing value. Going after the 8th round, I got him in one league in the 10th round for a starting running back. Just such great value. Thank you, Brian Robinson. Next, TJ Hawkinson. Been following along, you know I was a big fan. Before he got injured, he was tight end number 1, just as I predicted. So it was a great draft value getting him at that 4-5 turn. Next, Jalen Reed, wide receiver, Green Bay Packers. He was going in the 12th round or later, some drafts undrafted, and he was just such a good value. He finished as the number 1 wide receiver for the Packers. Over his last 8 games, he averaged almost 15 points a game. So look to draft him next year. And finally, Brandon Ayuk. The guy is a stud. He was going after Debo in most drafts. He finished as player 43 overall. He had over 1,300 yards, 7 TDs. People won't be sleeping on him next year. Those are a couple of players I'm thankful for.
The players I'm most thankful for this fantasy football season are Kyron Williams, first and foremost. He was a week 1 waiver wire pickup for me in most of my leagues. He averaged 21.25 points per game this season and finishes the running back 7 overall in PPR. I'm definitely going to be keeping him in my keeper league. And if you have him in keeper leagues or dynasty formats, you should be very happy because he's going to be a great player for a long time. Tyreek Hill, number 2 guy on my list. He finishes a wide receiver 2 overall in PPR and standard formats. He appeared on 21.4% of championship rosters this season. The guy was just absolutely phenomenal. If you had him on your team, you were very likely to win every single week. Breece Hall, man, talk about a guy who came on strong at the end. He finishes the running back 2 overall in PPR formats, where he averaged 24.5 points per game in the fantasy football playoffs. I mean, the guy was an absolute stud this season, and he was a great value in the 2nd to 3rd round. And then finally, Trey McBride. He finishes a tight end 7 overall in PPR. He was a great value for me as a midseason pickup, and he gave me great consistency at the tight end position, which is a very valuable thing to have in fantasy. If you had him, there were no weeks where he really cost you the game, and that's all you can ask for out of your tight end in fantasy football.
All right, the 2023 fantasy season has come to an end. Whether you're in dynasty, redraft, best ball, or any other format, the season is over. All that's left is the NFL playoffs. And I know some of you diehards out there are still in NFL playoff fantasy formats. Good luck and have fun with those. I don't have any good advice for you because they're all very independent from each other. But I would just take Josh Allen since the Bills are going to ship it. Anyways, I'm going to cover with you guys some players that I'm thankful for throughout this fantasy season. First, at quarterback, Jordan Love, finishing the year as quarterback 4 and averaging 19.4 fantasy points per game. He was undrafted and picked up off the waiver wire in every league, and he finished with more points than Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson. At the running back position, David Montgomery, finishing the year at RB17 and averaging just under 15 points a game. He was the most consistent running back there pretty much was this year, getting you 10 to 15 every week in PPR despite not catching passes, despite having a top 10 running back Jahmyr Gibbs emerged as the season progressed. He was basically the definition of old reliable, and I'd be looking at that same type of outcome next year for him. At the wide receiver position, my favorite player that was uncovered this year, Puka Nacua. He broke the all-time rookie receiving record, and he did finish the year as wide receiver 4, averaging over 17 points per game. and he scored more points than first-round wide receiver darlings Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and A.J. Brown. I'd be looking to take Puka Nacua in the second round next year. That's what it's going to cost you to acquire this young stud of a player. And finally, at the tight end position, rookie tight end Sam Laporta finished as tight end number 1, averaging 14 points per game. There's really nothing bad to say about this guy. He catches touchdowns, catches most of the balls thrown his way, and he's going to be the tight end 1 in every single format next year. So don't miss out on Sam Laporta and his third round price tag that it's going to cost you. These are the players I was thankful for this year, and I think it'll be exciting to see what they're able to do next year.
This is a poker hand I played at Shuffle 512 in Austin, Texas. Effective stacks were $260. 2 players limped, and the button, who's a loose, splashy player who almost never folds pre-flop, goes to $15. I was in the small blind with ace-king offsuit and raised to $60. Both of the limpers fold and the button calls. The flop comes queen, queen, king, and I check to disguise the strength of my hand, and because I can get good information from him, if he checks back here, I almost surely have the best hand, and I can get all the money in over the next 2 streets. He checks back, and the turn comes in offsuit 3, completing the rainbow. I bet $50 targeting under pairs and ace-high hands, and he quickly calls. The river is a 7, which is another brick. I jam for $150, and the button tanks for a while, then he finally puts in the call. He says he has ace-10 offsuit for just ace-high, and we are good and drag this nice pot.
Okay, we are playing poker once again at WinStar 1-2. It limps to me, and I'm in the cutoff. The very first hand I sit down at, I look down at Queen 10 of diamonds, so I make it $11, and 5 people call, so we go to the flop. The flop comes the Queen of Spades, the Jack of Clubs, and the 6 of Hearts. It checks to me. I want to thin the field because I do have top pair, okay kicker, and some backdoor draws, so I make it $31. The button folds. Now the small blind raises to 75, and it folds to me. Everything's telling me a fold. He's a reg. I've seen him some. Just looks like a super tight player, but I do make the call. The turn is a 10 of hearts. Now he goes all in. I snap call thinking I got lucky on him. I thought he had a good queen, maybe an overpair he's getting tricky with. I show him the 2 pair, and he shows a set of jacks. River is the 5 of diamonds, and I miss, which leads me to just want to say that at your first hand, you probably don't want to be playing a really big hand. You need to get a read for the table. Also, go with your instincts. My instincts on the flop was telling me to fold, but once I, called and saw the turn, it was going to be super hard for me to get away. So, I cost myself some money by not folding on the flop whenever everything was telling me to fold. Now, let's jump into what we got right and wrong the last week of fantasy. First, the things we got right. Telling you to play the Tampa Bay defense. They definitely came through and would have helped you win if you had them. Next, Kevin telling you to start Evan Ingram at the tight end position. He came on strong for you. And finally, Jacob telling you to start James Conner. He had another really big game. A few things we got wrong. Telling you to play Rashid Rice. Well, he didn't play at all, which leads us to the point, week 18. If your league goes to that, you definitely have to be keeping up with who's sitting, because so many teams want to rest their players that either they're not playing for anything or want to get ready for the playoffs, because you don't want to end up like Detroit or the Eagles, who got some players hurt right before the playoffs. And lastly, telling you to sit Deontay Johnson. He had a pretty good game for you. So those are the things that we got right and wrong for you the last week of fantasy football.
Welcome to Miller Time. I'm Kevin Miller, and on today's episode, we're going to discuss the Chicago Bears and the number 1 overall draft pick and what their options are at this point in time. Now, the draft is still 4 or 5 months away, so a lot will change. But as a Bears fan, I've been hearing a lot of different rumors, and everyone in Chicago wants to pretend to be the GM. But a few of the options that the Bears could do are they could trade away Justin Fields and get the maximum return on him and draft Caleb Williams #1 overall. There's going to be that debate. Do you go with Fields in his 5th year, who's shown a lot but not enough? Or do you kind of restart that clock and go with Caleb Williams? Their second option would be to trade down a pick or two, get some value in the process like they did last year, and draft Marvin Harrison Jr., 2nd or 3rd overall. As a Bears fan, I am hoping this is the route they end up taking. It'd be really sick to see Marvin Harrison Jr. added to the Bears offense and really give them what they've been missing since Brandon Marshall, which is a true #1 receiver. And the last option they have is to just draft Marvin Harrison Jr. #1 overall. It's a little aggressive, but ultimately it may end up being the best move. We've seen the top quarterback taken in the draft the last few years hasn't necessarily panned out. Caleb Williams is not a sure thing. No matter how good he looks or ends up testing, there's still a risk taking a quarterback #1 overall in the NFL draft. So those are the options. Leave a comment in the comment section on which one you think the Bears should do with their #1 overall pick. Until next time, I'm Kevin Miller, and this is Miller Time. See you guys later.
Soccer hooligans.
Back at it with the Degenerate Gambling Life's added minutes, I'm Jordan Tennis. The cream of the crop is rising to the top of the oldest national tournament in soccer history. Of course, we're talking about the FA Cup, which debuted in 1871. You fast forward 150 plus years later, and here we are. 729 English clubs were vying for the title, and at the conclusion of the 3rd round, we will be down to 32 teams. Some of the notable teams who have already booked their tickets include Chelsea, Newcastle, Aston Villa, Manchester City, Liverpool, Tottenham, and our boys, Wrexham. Manchester United still has yet to play. Well, I take that back. They're playing right now. They're up 1-0 in the 70th minute. So they are very likely to book their ticket to the 4th round as well. Before we hop into the FA Cup draw, I'd like to take a moment and highlight that Kevin De Bruyne is back in action with Manchester City after missing 28 games. And what better cameo than providing an assist 17 minutes into his appearance. It's good to have one of the best players in the Premier League back. Well, it's good to have one of the best players in the world back. So he'll be fun to watch going forward. And with the 4th round of the FA Cup draw complete, we have some intriguing matchups. There's 3 Premier League matchups, which include Tottenham hosting Man City, Chelsea hosting Aston Villa, and Fulham hosting Newcastle, as well as we get to see Liverpool host the winner of Norwich City and Bristol Rovers, and West Ham will travel to Blackburn Rovers. Now, switching gears, we had some sad news come out of the footballing world when the news of Franz Beckenbauer's passing was announced. Der Kaiser, which translates to the Emperor, was a nickname he most certainly earned over his time as a player and coach. Beckenbauer was a 2-time Ballon d'Or winner, which is given to the world's best player each year. Think about it like an MVP award from other sports, but this transcends all leagues across the world. Adding to those individual awards, he won the European Championship and the World Cup as a player for Germany, also tallying 3 European Cups, 5 Bundesliga titles, and 4 German Cups at the club level with Bayern Munich and Hamburg. But he didn't stop there. He is one of 3 people to have won the World Cup as a player and manager alongside Mario Zagallo and Didier Deschamps, who achieved the feat with Brazil and France respectively. He was a man who had the respect of all his peers, whether you were on his team or you were lined up against him. He will be missed, and we hope you rest easy, legend. Myself, aka Mr. Tennis, would like to take a second and let you know the Australian Open has begun and the world of tennis majors is back. We will be back next week to check in around the midpoint of the tournament to update you on how things are going down under. Hope you guys are looking forward to Super Wildcard Weekend in the NFL, and we will see you next week.
How's it going? Time for a little fantasy basketball, but if you have not yet, please hit that like, comment, or subscribe. We love the feedback you guys give us. And if you want some of the merchandise, also leave comments below and we will get some out to you. Now, on to fantasy basketball. The trade deadline will be coming up soon. So please think about players that are behind the starters. Zach LaVine probably going to be traded. If he is, the player behind him and other role players will see a boost in production. Same thing with like Kyle Kuzma out there with Washington. Look for those values before the main player gets traded. Now, this week, we're going to look at a few players that are undervalued players that you should be trading for to get on the cheap before their production skyrockets. First up, Spencer Dinwiddie, Brooklyn Nets. He's currently player 123, but his usage and production are still all there. I expect him to finish the year closer to player 90, which is usually his historic averages. So he'll be seeing a huge bump if he's able to do that. Currently, he qualifies for the point guard and the shooting guard, so we like the position flexibility. He's giving you 14 points, 2 3-pointers made a game, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, and 1 steal. Again, we expect him to finish closer to player 90. Next, Buddy Hield, Indiana Pacers, currently player 95, but he's been on a cold streak for the last month, and he's been outside of the top 150 players, so you could probably trade for him pretty cheap, or maybe even look for him on the waiver wire. He gives you that flexibility you really love at the shooting guard and small forward because he qualifies for the guard and forward position. Right now, he is at 13 points, 3 3-pointers made a game, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and 1 steal. Just like Spencer Dinwiddie, they both are below their career averages and norms, and they will probably get a huge bump going forward to hit those peaks, so look to trade for them. Now, finally, reminder, we will be in Las Vegas for the Super Bowl. Hopefully you love Las Vegas as much as we do. We will be playing poker and tons of other table games while we are out there. We'll be there February 8th through the 12th. February 8th, we will have a meetup game at Mandalay Bay at 6 p.m. Come say hi, play with us, get some merch, can discuss any fancy sports you'd like, talk about the Super Bowl or just about anything. Please come up, say hi, and have a good time with us. We'll also be playing poker all weekend long while we are there. Hopefully you guys did great in your fantasy football championships, and as we pivot to fantasy basketball and to fantasy baseball, please comment and let us know different things you would like. Have a great week.